Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Poway Unified Board of Education. It is now 6:04 p.m. I'd ask you to please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you very much. Mr. Sellers, please report out a closed session.
All right. Closed session began at 4:07 p.m. First item was 2.1-A1 in the matter of pending existing litigation case number OAH 2018-030-894 on a motion by Patel and a second by O'Connor-Radcliffe. The board voted to approve the final settlement agreement in this case in the amount of $65,000. The vote was unanimous. Item 2.1-A2 in the matter of pending existing litigation case number OAH 2018-040-143 on a motion by Zane and a second by O'Connor-Radcliffe. The board voted to approve final settlement agreement in this case for up to $6,000. That vote was unanimous. In the matter of pending, item 2.1-A3, in the matter of pending existing litigation case number OAH 2018-050-218 on a motion by Patel and a second by Beatty, the board voted to approve the settlement agreement in this case for the amount of $10,000. That vote was unanimous. In the matter of item 2.1-A4, pending existing litigation case numbers OAH 2018-051004 on a motion by Sellers and a second by Patel, the board voted to approve the final settlement of educational costs and or legal fees not to exceed $20,000 and ongoing education costs not to exceed $6,000 per year. That vote was unanimous. In the 2.1-A5, in the matter of pending existing litigation case number OAH 2018-020745 on a motion by Beatty and a second by O'Connor-Radcliffe, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement in the amount of $85,000. That vote was unanimous. Item 2.1-A6, in the matter of pending existing litigation case number OAH 2018-020006 on a motion by Beatty and a second by Zane, the board voted to approve the final settlement agreement in the amount of $60,000. That vote was unanimous. Item 2.4-A, there was no reportable action. And item 2.6-A, in the matter of public employee appointment / employment, Director 2 of Special Education on a motion by O'Connor-Radcliffe and a second by Beatty, the board voted to approve the hiring of Dr. Lorelei Olson as Director 2 of Special Education. That vote was unanimous. Closed session adjourned at 5:20 p.m.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. If Dr. Olson is in the audience, we'd love to have her stand and be recognized, and congratulations. Welcome aboard. Thank you. Let the record reflect all members are in attendance this evening, and we'll have the welcome to the public provided by Student Board Member Schwartz.
Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Board of Education. If you would like to address the board on any agenda item, please complete a speaker slip. All requests to speak must be submitted to the clerk of the board before the agenda item comes up. If you are requesting an agenda item be pulled for public discussion from Section 5.0, Consent Calendar, a speaker slip must be submitted to the clerk now, as approval of the consent calendar is one of the first terms up for approval. Item 4.2 is placed on our agenda to enable members of our community to bring items that are not placed anywhere else on the agenda to the board's attention. Speaking time is limited to 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 15 minutes per topic, unless waived by board president. There will be a 30-second yellow warning light when time is running out. Speakers may only speak on one topic under item 4.2 and may not defer their speaking time to another individual. If there are concerns regarding specific individuals, it is preferred that the speaker refrain from naming them publicly to respect their privacy. The board will accept and review any written materials that could provide more specific information. The Brown Act does not permit board action or extended discussion of any item not on the agenda, but your concerns will be referred to staff. With that said, welcome and thank you for coming.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. That brings us to item 3.5, approval of agenda and agenda sequence. I have two requests. I would like to move item 9.1 ahead of item 5.1. In the interest of time for those who are here to speak to item 9.1. No need to make them wait the entire evening. I'd also like to move item 5.3J out of consent to just after item 7.1 on the regular order of business. It would make sense to hear the unaudited actuals report for last year's budget before we hear the monthly revisions for the upcoming year's budget. Are there any other suggested changes or amendments to the agenda? Ms. Beatty.
I'm assuming other consent items will be pulled
Yes.
later?
Yes. For now, is that good? Okay, is there a motion to approve the, motion approved by Dr.
Motion to
Patel?
approve.
Second, and is there a student preferential vote?
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Carries unanimously. Thank you. That, we will now move to item 4.1, Student Board Representative Reports, beginning with Sean Fallon from Poway High School. Welcome.
Good evening, board members. It is an honor to be speaking to you all again today. For those who did not know, Poway High has undergone a lot of change in the last few months since I last addressed you all. First off, I would like to thank Principal Mr. Garrett, Mr. McKee, and Ms. Burling for all their years of service at our high school. Their contributions to our campus will be missed dearly, and I'm sure it is no light task to replace these amazing administrators. However, our new principal, Mr. Richard Nash, along with new assistant principals, Colin Young and Brianne Fromis, who are joining our current assistant principal, Aaron Little, have made an immediate and recognizable impact on our campus. As a student, one can tell that the vibe of our campus is extremely positive and supportive. On top of this, all I hear from our faculty now is simply how amazing the new admin team is at Poway. Our teachers could not be more excited, and that excitement rubs off on the students, energizing us to do our absolute best each and every day. Our school has also benefited from a resurgence of spirit that we all felt was missing from last year. Excuse me? Okay. All of our events have been affected by this, from our first day assembly to our back to school night, our annual MORP dance, and to our first lunchtime pep rally, which had over 1,000 students in attendance. All of these students each voluntarily giving up their lunch to join us in this new wave of spirit that has overtaken our school. The increase in pride at Poway, along with the supportive culture that our new admin team and staff have provided for our school, will ensure that this is the best year at Poway yet. Another revolutionary decision this year that we made to support this cultural shift at Poway is that we decided to provide each and every student and staff member with a free Poway Spirit shirt, similar to what Mount Carmel High School does every year. Now, every student and staff member is free to show off their Titan pride every Friday during our Green and Gray Fridays, or every day for that matter. And we hope that this wardrobe edition will serve to unite the student body beyond how simply we are all dressed, but rather we hope it brings us one step closer to being that Titan family that we so strive to be. We'd also like to thank our PTSA and foundation for all that they've done for us so far. I know from personal experience, since my mom is the president of the foundation, that we've already raised $16,000 from registration alone and some after back to school night. And I also know that our PTSA president has been hard at work for our annual grad night. And every year these programs support our students immensely and give them the means to succeed. And without them, we would be nowhere. And we really, really hope that these programs especially get the recognition that they deserve from the district. I would also like to highlight all the students on campus who participated in our annual Poway Days Parade. Our nationally ranked dance team, our Titan ambassadors, our nationally ranked robotics team, our Emerald Brigade, our color guard, and many, many more have continued to perform at the highest of levels, all the while showcasing the respect that we expect personally from every student at Poway Unified. It is the exemplary groups such as these that make everyone at Poway High so proud to be a Titan, and we sincerely believe that this positive spirit and school culture will carry out throughout the year. Thank you, and I'm looking forward to our next meeting.
Thank you for such a great report. Now we have Sydney Roberts with Rancho Bernardo High School.
Good evening, board members. Rancho Bernardo has hit the ground running this school year, and I'm glad to be able to share with you some of the exciting things that we've been up to. We had our back-to-school assembly where we announced our homecoming theme, which will be a super homecoming, to be held on September 29th. We had our annual Back in Blacklight dance the first Saturday of the school year, which was very well attended. Our robotics team continued the success they had from last year and won their first competition of the school year and made us all very proud. Club Rush was last week, where we had over 90 clubs who worked to recruit new students for the year. For our first football game, we had a kickoff party with food, music, and games to get the stable excited for the school year. We welcomed 7 new teachers to our campus this year. RB commemorated the 17th anniversary of the tragedies that occurred on 9/11 by holding a school-wide moment of silence, listening to a heartfelt message from Mr. Lemaster, and our football team placed American flags around the entrance of the school and around various parts of campus. Back to School Night was very well attended, and our AVID, ASB, and peer counseling students all worked together to help parents find their way on campus. We have lots coming up within the next few weeks on campus. Homecoming is the focus right now for ASB. We are expecting a very large turnout, as in years past we've had over 1,000 students attend, so we're looking forward to that. Our annual pancake breakfast is coming up on Saturday, September 22nd, where we will have local vendors, performances, and of course, lots of pancakes. We are currently fundraising and planning for our Bronco Beach, which will be located in the center of our campus in the large quad. The plan is to have sand volleyball, spike ball, cornhole, and other beach games for students to enjoy during lunch and off-roll. We are starting to brainstorm ideas for Mental Health Awareness Week coming up in early October, and our band, orchestra, dance, drama, and choir programs are all rehearsing and getting ready for their fall events. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to returning for my next report.
Thank you very much. Next is Carter Kane from Westview High School.
Good evening, PowayUSD Board of Education. For those who don't know me, my name is Carter Kane, and I am here tonight in place of our student body president, Adrian McWilliams. I'm a senior, and I currently serve as our student body vice president. I'm honored to represent Westview High School here tonight and report on our many successes over the past few weeks. As always, the first day of school is an exciting and important day as the Westview community joins back together to kick off the year. With our beautiful Westview Stadium as a backdrop, the current raised on the newest members of our Westview community, the class of 2022. The new freshmen were greeted at the front gate by Westview Link Crew and introduced to the Wolverine Way as well as their new campus. To top it all off, the class of 2022 joined the rest of the school to experience their first Westview Rally. Complete with performances from the Westview Band, choir, cheer, and dance troupe, the Willy Wonka-themed rally sent the message to all that a little imagination can go a long way. Westview High School has also been lucky enough to have a large number of new staff and faculty this year. They enjoyed lunch together after their first week at Westview and were able to seek the support and guidance of veteran teachers. Looking ahead, our entire staff is anticipating the next Professional Growth Day, where they will all take part in anti-bias training as part of our No Place for Hate school-wide initiative. They will be working together to better educate and equip themselves for how to respond and help students respond to moments of bias, prejudice, racism, or bigotry. All part of our efforts to keep our campus a safe and welcome place for all. As a matter of fact, Westview is excited to be sending a team of 6 students and 7 staff members to the No Place for Hate conference in October. We are also very proud of our fellow Wolverine, Jake Schwartz, who is sitting on the board as a student board representative this year. His strong work ethic and extensive leadership knowledge has served our Westview community well, and we cannot wait to see what he will do for the Poway Unified School District. Our Performing Arts division at Westview has already switched into high gear. The Westview Theater Company successfully hosted Bound for Broadway, a night full of musical acts, scenes, and monologues. The company now turns its attention to the play And Then There Were None, which opens Thursday, October 4th at 7 p.m. Westview Choir performed the district's theme song for the year, This Is Us, to all the parents at Back to School Night to much fanfare. As usual, Westview Fall Sports are off to a strong start and continue to bring all students together to either play in the game, assist on the sidelines, or support in the stands. I wish all the teams competing well as they head into the heart of their seasons, and I'm confident they will represent Westview and PUSD well as they travel across San Diego County to compete. When students of Westview think of the beginning of the year, one word comes to mind: homecoming. And this year is no different. Anticipation is building as Westview prepares to transport back in time to the 50s to Rock Around the Jukebox. Based on iconic movies from that era such as Hairspray and Grease, Westview ASB is hard at work to deliver a week filled with milkshakes and the sock hop spirit. Every member of our 45-person ASB team is working overtime to pull off an unforgettable week for the students of our school. As I bring this report to a close, I would like to thank Tina Ziegler, our principal, for her continued support of the students of Westview. She goes above and beyond for all of us and perfectly embodies what it means to be a Westview Wolverine. As we all look forward to another incredible year, I would like to wish you all good luck. It has been an absolute honor to talk in front of you this evening. I thank you for your time, and I'm so proud to be a Wolverine.
Thank you very much. And some very nice words about Jake there, too. I saw him writing them earlier, so good job delivering them. Very nice. At this time, we'll move to item 4.2, public comments. Clerk Sellers.
Our first speaker is Kevin Juza.
While Mr. Juza makes his way to the podium, you guys are welcome to leave if you like. Otherwise, feel free to stick around. Welcome.
Good evening, Board. My name is Kevin Juza, and I'm a parent of two students at Twin Peaks Elementary School. I've been very busy this last summer meeting with the communities and listening to a lot of people. And I want to share a few things that hopefully I can help you and help everybody in the future. First of all, I was very excited this past Tuesday being part of the safety committee that was here at this room. It was filled with about 50 to 60 parents, community members, staff at PUSD here to come together to be proactive to help the schools be in our school system to be safe and prepared for future. So nothing would happen negatively in the future, and also help the school just come together and bring unity. It was great attendance. It was a very open dialogue. I've been part of district committees in the past, and it was very much more like a rubber stamp, like come and we're going to tell you what we're going to do, and do you agree? This was truly from the start at the very beginning to really bring people's voices up to bring safety to the schools. I'd like to thank Greg Mozell and TJ Zane for leading the conversation on Tuesday. I thought it was a very good start, and I look forward to this process. Secondly, I also was at the Poway Day Parade, walking to the theme, This Is Us, and it truly brings a spirit in when you hear that song while seeing the video that the Poway team put together. It was great seeing the community come together. That's what I really like about what's going on here, and the spirit that Poway was talking, the student representative talked about Poway and the energy. That energy is kind of starting to come everywhere around. At the Poway Days Parade, it was all three candidates were there for that area, plus all the bands, everybody was there. School foundations were out there. You really saw that Poway's community is surrounded by schools. So our success is so important for our kids and our community's success. And so I just wanted to share that observation. I have already won something in election this year. I'm now on the foundation at Twin Peaks Middle School, And in doing that, we're talked about funding and how we can help bring more funds to the school and make it a good experience for the kids and fill the gaps where the gaps are there. And I did some research, and I want to know that we want to help the PUSD with any kind of programs like full and fair funding program. If you need any support from foundations or parents, I will do my help to help bring our per pupil up to the national average, which that program is all about. I can rally parents from all over the school district to help us get as many signatures or letters to Sacramento to help bring more funds to us to help us provide all we want for all of our students. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Janet Latang.
Good evening, Superintendent Kim Phillips, Superintendent's Council, and Board of Trustees. This year I come to the board as a community member for Poway High School, and tonight I would like to share about the beginning of the school year at Poway High School. The Poway High School campus, welcoming new students, staff, and administrators, are excited about a new year of learning. Many thanks to the Poway High School counselors and administration for their hard work to prepare for the Poway High School's 2,200 students. It's a lot of work. The first week of school was not all a smooth road for the Poway High School community. Rather, it was a backed up, traffic-filled road, as before and after school traffic was severely impacted by the Espola Road Safety Improvements Project. Adjustments were made by the Poway High School community to adapt to the construction and restricted traffic flow. Many families and even some school buses have changed their route to avoid the Espola Road area between Poway High School and Twin Peaks Road. The Poway High School administration and the City of Poway have collaborated to lessen the impact of the Espola Road construction as much as possible, and I'm happy to report that since the first week of school, the construction is no longer causing as many students to be late to school. The Poway High School administration and the City of the Poway will continue to collaborate all year to lessen the impact of the Espola Road construction on the traffic flow to and from school. It is planned that this portion of Espola Road will be under construction for the whole school year. Finally, I would like to bring to your attention that this week is National Arts and Education Week. Designated by Congress in 2010, this week, the second week of September each year is to be celebrated as National Arts and Education. It's a celebration of the transformative power of arts and education. Research shows that youth who participate in the arts are more likely to be successful in school, college, and career than their peers who do not have arts education. We should take time to cheer for the many accomplishments of our talented PowayUSD visual and performing arts teachers and their students. In fact, when you go outside to the lobby, Meadowbrook students' art is displayed in the showcase right outside. It's just fantastic. However, PowayUSD still has work to do to ensure that all of our students have equal access to the arts, dance, music, theater, visual and performing art, and media arts in our schools. As a community member on the PowayUSD Visual and Performing Arts Strategic Arts Task Force, I am happy to report that we are completing our work and look forward to presenting our findings to the board soon. Thank you very much.
The last public commenter is Stan Rodkin.
Good evening, Stan Rodkin, and we live in Rancho Penasquitos. An article came to my attention just a few days ago which may impact the safety of all 35,000 students, or 12 to 1,500 teachers, groundskeepers, all employees. And it pertains to it's about a groundskeeper in a Northern California school district who received a jury award of $280 million because the jury decided that his use of Roundup had caused him to get cancer. And unfortunately, the poor fellow will never live to see that money because of the appeals. He's dying of cancer. So I have a question, and is this district using Roundup to control weeds on the school grounds? Okay, moving right along. School districts don't operate in a vacuum. There's Association of CSBA, California Association of School Boards, and also Association of Large Suburban Districts. Now, we know that if this thing has come to a conclusion in the court, that it must have dragged for several years, so the information that Roundup is cancer-causing must have been disseminated throughout all schools in the county, in the state. So my concern is that it is or is not being used here. If it's being used here, it's putting 35,000 kids at risk, and all the teachers, all 12 to 1,500 teachers. So we need to know whether it's being used. Apparently there's not anyone here who's in charge of purchasing and signs purchase orders for Roundup. So what I'm going to do is ask Jake
Mr.
Schwartz
Rodkin?
here. I'm sorry.
Just to provide some clarification, we're not attempting to be disrespectful, but since the item is not agendized, we're not allowed to engage in a back and forth during the public comment. Staff will follow up with you for an answer on your questions.
Fine, thank you, Mr. Zane. I would like to hand this, ask Jake Schwartz to hand this over to Ms. O'Connor and take a moment, please. I suggest each of you take a moment.
It needs to go to the board clerk, sir. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well,
Secretary.
I suggest that each of you take a few moments and glance at this and look at the picture of the man's hands on the second page. And I would ask someone to pass it to Superintendent Phelps for immediate action, like tomorrow morning, to find out if that's being used and report to the board back at the next meeting, to the board and the public. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is that all?
That was our last speaker under this item.
Great, thank you. And just again for clarification, we'll hear the speakers with regard to items 9.1 after item 4.6. So this time, item 4.3, information item, Dr. Phelps.
It is now my honor to present for board recognition our PUSD Classified Employees of the Year, our Teachers of the Year, and our Volunteers of the Year. These employees and volunteers represent the highest caliber of people in PUSD working on behalf of our students. I'll now turn it over to Cabinet to read the names while President Zane and I present the awards up front.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We will start with the Classified Employees of the Year this evening. First to honor this evening is Shelley Porter. Shelley is a library and media technician at Sunset Hills Elementary School. As the library media technician, Shelley is one of the only educators at the school that sees each and every student on a weekly basis. She goes out of her way to make every visit to the library an experience where books come alive, real connections are made, and students have the opportunity to discover a love for learning. Shelley also opens her library to adults with special needs who come twice a week to help out in the library. For the past several years, Shelley has also created a Shakespeare performance group with Sunset Hills 5th grade GATE reading students. Congratulations, Shelley. Our second Classified Employee of the Year is Michelle Cass. Administrative Assistant, Alternate Programs. Michelle is known for many things, especially for consistently providing above and beyond support for administrators, teachers, staff, and our students. And she does so with a passion for the job and the students she serves. Michelle does so much more than her job description. She volunteers to organize the Adopt a Family program, provides support for the Youth in Transition program, and has taken on leadership roles to organize summer school and the summer graduation. Congratulations, Michelle. Congratulations again to our two PUSD Classified Employees of the Year.
Good evening. It is now my honor to recognize our Teachers of the Year. Our first Teacher of the Year is Anna Collins, Valley Elementary. Anna is a resource specialist for TK through 5th grades at Valley Elementary School, PUSD's only Spanish immersion program. As a bilingual instructor, Anna has not only been able to identify learning disabilities in Valley's bilingual student population, but also developed and adapted special education materials to serve Spanish-speaking students. This represented a significant change as these group of students were previously only able to access English services. Her work in this area has led to significant growth and improvement in students' confidence and performance. Congratulations, Anna. Our second Teacher of the Year is Chantel Raquel from Del Sur Elementary. Chantel is currently teaching a 2-3 combination class at Del Sur Elementary School, where she has a special gift of connecting with even the shyest and hardest to reach children. Chantel employs an eclectic teaching approach so she can customize what is needed for each one of her students. She served as her school's liaison for PUSD's new literacy adoption and mentors student teachers year after year. Chantel is also the first to volunteer or try something new to benefit students and families, from her school's literacy night to the PTA Reflections program to community service projects. Congratulations, Chantel. And our third Teacher of the Year is Katie Wu, Westview High School. Katie teaches English at Westview High School. Her past struggles as a low-income, first-generation immigrant helped her to connect with her students when she began teaching English prep, AVID, and academic success. She started a writing center at Westview where skilled writing students can tutor their peers. She encourages compassion for students as she witnessed firsthand how students need social, emotional, and mental health support to be ready to learn to their fullest potential. Congratulations, Katie. It's our pleasure, and congratulations to all three of our PUSD Teachers of the Year. This Saturday, they will be honored at the San Diego County Office of Education Salute to Teachers event. Good luck, Anna, Chantel, and Katie, as they are considered for one of 5 County Teachers of the Year awards.
It is my pleasure to present the PUSD Volunteers of the Year. Our first recipient is Ms. Krissa Jensen. Krissa is the Black Mountain Education Foundation president, and under her leadership, the foundation has been able to increase technology access, provide teacher grants, and purchase a new electronic marquee for the school. Krissa is also the Academy Parent Leader, acting as a liaison between the school and parents. Krissa is an Odyssey of the Mind coach. The Black Mountain Middle School Odyssey teams were very successful this year, with one team making it to the World Finals. Krissa also volunteers and leads parents at Westview High School. She exemplifies volunteerism with pride, honor, and dedication. Congratulations. Our next volunteer of the year is Mr. Tom McFadden. Tom is the ultimate Mount Carmel cheerleader. He can be found at registration days, helping freshman parents navigate the new school, and he can be found at every back-to-school night and 8th grade family night, urging parents to participate in sharing his love for Mount Carmel. Tom continues to serve even after his children have graduated. Tom was a founding member of the Mount Carmel Educational Foundation and has also taken a seat on the board of directors for the Mount Carmel Athletic Foundation. Tom has been a part of raising countless dollars to improve experiences for students and is a great example of the Sun Devil way. Congratulations. Our next volunteers of the year are Andrea and Roger Mitchell. From Canyon View Elementary School, Andrea and Roger have made volunteerism a family affair. Andrea first came to Canyon View as a student and has returned now as a parent of a 4th grader. Both Andrea and Roger are geologists, and they share their passion for the earth by organizing special hands-on activities directly correlating to the science curriculum. Whether it's the book fair, staff appreciation days, assisting with vision and hearing screenings, or putting up hooks for backpacks, the Mitchells are there to help. They have donated countless hours of their time. Congratulations. Congratulations to all of our 3 PUSD Volunteers of the Year. Or I should make that 4.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 4.6, California Distinguished Schools.
Good evening. At this time, we would like to publicly recognize our California Distinguished School winners. The 2018 California Distinguished School Program recognizes California elementary schools that have made exceptional gains in implementing academic content and performance standards adopted by the State Board of Education. The schools represent examples of excellent teaching, learning, and collaborating, and successful school climate efforts. The principals and their staff were recognized at the California Distinguished Schools Awards ceremony in Anaheim on May 3rd, 2018, but we did not get a chance to celebrate you here publicly. At this time, we'd like to call you up one school at a time. If you and any of your members of your team are in attendance, please come up. The first school we'd like to recognize and congratulate is Monterey Ridge Elementary School and Principal Al Embry. They have their banner.
We brought our banner.
Congratulations. Congratulations to Monterey Ridge. The next school we would like to congratulate and bring up is Park Village Elementary School. Principal Mike Mosgrove. Congratulations to Park Village. The next school that we'd like to bring up and congratulate is Willow Grove Elementary School and Principal Amy Huff.
Ready? 1, 2.
Willow Grove, and congratulations to all of our California Distinguished School winners.
Congratulations to all of the honorees. Recognition well deserved. That now brings us to item 9.1. I'd ask Mr. Mizell to introduce the item. We'll give just a minute for the room to clear for those who wish to leave now. Okay.
It's above my pay grade.
I think we're ready to roll now. Mr. Mizell.
Thank you, President Zane. Tonight, the board is asked to consider resolution number 17-2019, proclaiming October 2018 as Dyslexia Awareness Month. The California State Parent-Teacher Association and the California State Senate have both recently adopted similar resolutions. In demonstration of our commitment to creating the conditions and culture that supports world-class learners, as well as our commitment to researching and exploring the best instructional practices available to ensure the academic success of students facing the challenges of dyslexia, and in response to the families in our district whose children have been adversely impacted by this condition, it is my recommendation that we designate October 2018 as Dyslexia Awareness Month.
Thank you, Mr. Mizell. Mr. Sellers, I believe we have two speakers on this item. Three speakers.
The first speaker is Stacy Cavaliere.
Welcome, Ms. Cavaliere.
Do I have a time limit or no? It's still 3 minutes? Okay. Good evening, Superintendent Phelps and members of the school board. Most of you know me, but those that don't, I'm Stacy Cavaliere. It's been 2 years since I've spoken at the school board. Before that, myself, along with other dedicated parents, attended nearly every school board meeting for over a year speaking about dyslexia. I want to first acknowledge Kimberly Beatty, who first brought up the dyslexia resolution to declare October Dyslexia Awareness Month 2 years ago. I want to thank you publicly for taking the time to educate yourself about dyslexia and attending the dyslexia simulation during that time. Sadly, not all your fellow board members felt the same way, and the agenda item was dismissed. That night brought a tremendous level of disappointment to the dyslexia community. I can speak with confidence that we all felt upset. We were shocked that the agenda was not passed. It was an utterly dehumanizing feeling. The dyslexic community has persevered with unwavering resolve to gain the support of the district and the educators within it. It is time to bring awareness, to grant acceptance, and to truly recognize us. Please see that tonight there is a great potential for change. Please see us. Dyslexics are survivors. As you see, of the many speakers for dyslexia who have stood here over the years, I know what these kids are up against because I am dyslexic. The rejection 2 years ago resonated with me personally. But this is not about me. This is about the young dyslexics who need your help. Dyslexics fight this war every day when we have to read, fill out a form, write an email, or to help our kids with homework. Just this speech alone took me nearly 2 hours to give you some perspective. This dyslexic is back tonight. And on behalf of the dyslexic community, I am asking for your respect and acknowledgement with this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Zane, for your honesty and your humility when you told me Miss Beatty had it right 2 years ago. I am thankful you are courageous enough to admit you have since gained further knowledge on dyslexia and are willing to right the wrong that was done. Thank you, TJ, for bringing this initiative back to the board in time for October. Our dyslexic community, up to 20% of the population, does not need to hide. We can stand proud of who we are as human beings. Poway, I am asking you to do the right thing tonight. Please acknowledge, validate, and inspire our dyslexic community. Please vote yes to pass dyslexia resolution declaring October as Dyslexia Awareness Month. Your vote tonight has the power to make a difference. Please stand with us.
Next speaker is Melissa Lazaro.
If you are here in support of this resolution and in support of children and adults with dyslexia, please stand up. Board, as you vote tonight, I want you to take a good look at the faces in this room. This is not just a resolution, a piece of paper, and words, but these are actual people's lives that are impacted. It may be too late for my son, but I am hopeful in the change that is coming in this district. Greg Mizell has had the courage to have very fruitful and hard conversations with parents that have been upset and frustrated over years and years of trying to fight and advocate just so that their kid can read and spell and write. I'm thankful for his leadership. I'm thankful for him being brave enough to have these conversations, and I am trusting in him that he is going to create that change on the special education arm. Thank you, Greg. Thank you, Superintendent, for the brave decisions that you've made and the changes that you've made within this district. Those have been hard, not easy conversations, I'm sure, but for the greater good of all of our students. And so I stand here tonight, or sit, one more time, and beg of you, please, bring awareness to dyslexia by acknowledging this resolution that the City of Poway has done, the City of San Diego, the County of San Diego, the State of California, the federal government have dyslexia resolutions. If you told a child 1,000 times and she or he still does not understand, then it is not the child who is the slow learner. I would like to believe that those of us in this room that are behind the leadership of education are not slow learners when it comes to helping our children, especially those that are struggling the most. And yet, let them see that this is not an intellectual disability, that we are bringing awareness to something that is a brain wiring difference. Thank you so much for your time. And please vote yes on this resolution, Board. Thank you.
The last speaker is Jennifer Martinez.
I was just registering in support. Thank you. All right, that concludes the public comments for that item. Before we begin further discussion, I'd just like to begin by saying, and it was pointed out by Ms. Caviglieri, that is true. And I learned a lot over the past couple of years. I appreciate the passion, the spark that she lit 2 years ago. I regret that it was quickly extinguished, and the pain that caused for a number of you. I've learned a lot on the issue since then. I recognize it for what it is, and that I made a mistake. And, probably should have come back last year. But this year is better than ever. And so I was pleased and honored to bring it forward for this agenda for everybody here in support of the item. And I'll make a motion in support.
Second.
Comments?
Yeah.
Sure.
When I spoke with Dr. Phelps about doing a resolution to recognize Dyslexia Awareness Month, I told her I was excited about doing it. Not only to bring attention to the learning difficulty experienced by as many as 1 in 4 of our students, which I've learned from many of you out there, by the way, but also because it gives us a chance to highlight the specific actions that our district is now taking to address the needs of our students with dyslexia. And I think it's important to note that our leadership up here has changed, as have our attitudes. Under the leadership of Dr. Phelps and her team in learning support and student services, with Ms. Osborne and Mr. Mizell, we've made a lot of progress in our district in identifying struggling readers early, providing appropriate interventions, and the work is still ongoing, and it will be for some time. Just before school started, all kindergarten and first grade teachers received that training that many of you have been talking about for a while in systematic phonemic awareness and phonics assessments. There's ongoing work always. We're contracting with local dyslexia experts, which you've also been talking about for a long time, who can deliver that professional development that our teachers and our paraprofessionals need to make sure they're supporting our students with dyslexia in the right ways. We're universally screening every first grade student this year so we can catch things early and be more proactive in implementing our appropriate interventions that we're working on now too. Kindergarten students are next. We've got a new online tool, making sure we monitor students' progress, and that's a little bit easier to keep track of this way. We're working on making sure every teacher has instructional materials and training necessary to teach reading effectively and in a personalized way for each student, because not every student who has trouble reading has dyslexia. So we have to recognize that there are different avenues to get our kids there. And to that end, our team is looking to adopt a set of reading interventions to be used at every school site under MTSS. That's our multi-tiered system of supports. And this is intended to reduce the variability in our current system at each site and introduce viable curriculum that, again, many of you have been asking for a number of years now. So I'm really pleased with our recent progress. I think this resolution is a real opportunity for us here tonight to recognize that we're doing more now. For the first time, we're making some real progress here. So thank you to all of you who have been part of that. And I want to close by reading just a part of a much, much longer email sent by dyslexia specialist and occupational therapist Belinda Hill to Mr. Mizell, and she CC'd everybody up here. Maybe many of you were on that as well. I'm not sure. That was a long list. But she thanks Mr. Mizell specifically for calling her on the phone to address concerns, which he is always willing to do, by the way. Kudos to you, Mr. Mizell. She says, I appreciate you taking the time to call and explaining all that you've been doing. Wow, you have accomplished a lot. Thanks for truly listening and then acting. I am excited with the new team in place and with Dr. Phelps at the helm that things may finally be turning in the right direction. I agree with that. He's doing exceptional work, as is everyone up here. So I'm really, really proud to support this resolution recognizing Dyslexia Awareness Month. Thanks.
Other board members. Mr. Sellers.
Yes, it's been a long time coming, but I'm grateful it's here. I'm not going to congratulate anybody sitting up here for doing the right thing, because that's what we're supposed to do, and would have been nice if we'd done it earlier. But I do want to thank and congratulate all the people behind this movement, both out in the audience and out in the world, because it is through your perseverance, your advocacy, your shared love of your and other people's children you don't even know, that this board has come around to doing the right thing. So I thank you for that.
Others. Ms. Beatty.
Actually, I just had a quick question for Board Member O'Connor Radcliffe. Mr. Zane explained his regret from 2 years ago. Did you want to make mention of that? You were adamantly opposed 2 years ago to this. I and others made impassioned statements advocating for the resolution, and you were strongly opposed at that time. So curious what's happened in the 2 years since then.
I think
Mr.
I've
Zane
actually
spoke to that.
I've talked about this many times in other meetings. Maybe all of you dyslexia advocates out there weren't here, but I have spoken at length with many of you over the years, and it wasn't about the dyslexia resolution. It wasn't about the topic of the resolution in any way. It was about the idea of resolutions that didn't involve our employees, which is what under our old administration is we limited our resolutions to those things. That's not the feeling of this new administration up here, and I'll give Dr. Phelps a lot of credit for changing the way we operate. And in speaking with many of you, I absolutely better understand the importance of a resolution like this and what it means to you. So, you know, I regret that we didn't have that leadership in place we didn't have the structure at the time, and I didn't understand what it would mean to you. I do now. And I've spoken with many of you, and thank you for doing that. I'd like to call you all out by name, but there's too many of you out there that I've talked to one-on-one, and I appreciate your time. Thanks.
Dr. Patel.
I'll keep my comments brief. This is the first time the resolution is coming before me, and I'm very excited to support it. I understand that it's more than just words, and I'm excited to see that there are actions following up behind it. And please keep the dialogue open, the communication open. Make sure we are meeting your students' needs. I'm excited to see this new progress that we're making. And thank you for being vigilant. Sometimes we need the encouragement of our community out there to keep us in the right direction. And it's good to know you're out there to support us making success. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. If there are any further comments, Mr. Schwartz?
Just simply that I believe this is a great cause, a great reason, and understand the points that were made earlier, but I see this as only positive outcomes, and I definitely believe that it should be passed.
Thank you very much. I'll take that as your student preferential vote in favor. And with that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 0. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. You're welcome. That brings us to item 5.1, approval of the consent calendar. I'll start at the end with Mr. Schwartz. Are there any items you wish to have pulled from the consent calendar?
No.
Mr. Connor Ratcliffe. Ms. Beatty. Mr. Sellers.
I'd like to pull item 5.3B, please.
D as in boy or D as
Item 5.3B. Thank you. Dr. Patel.
Nothing to pull, thank you.
Okay. With that, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of items 5.3B and item 5.3J, which earlier we moved to another part of the agenda?
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Beatty.
Second.
Second by Dr. Patel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Then we will go to 5.3B. I believe that is going to be Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, President Zane. This is our monthly ratification of district purchase orders in excess of $5,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Sellers.
Following up on our discussion in the agenda meeting, I wanted to draw everyone's attention to item 158, which is a recasting of a previous item for legal services district-wide for $350,000. Mr. Little was kind enough to provide us a breakdown of how those amounts are allocated, and it is an estimate, or a budget, if you will, but I wanted to read into the record what those projected allocations were and maybe have a discussion about it. The anticipated legal services cost for the fiscal year, the total of item 158 is $350,000. That breaks down as learning support services, $30,000, business support services, $25,000, personnel support services, $270,000, and the superintendent's office, $25,000, for the total of $350,000. I want to renew my objection to authorizing such a large purchase orders in general. I think that we can break them down into smaller chunks and bring them before the board with specific descriptions of what it is they're being spent on, and also the fact that the amounts are just way too high. I don't want to go into any of the specific budgeting, but I think all of these amounts could be reduced, hopefully in the future, and we can reduce the reliance that we place on outside counsel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Mr. Little.
Thank you, Trustee. We reviewed the expenditures again from the last subsequent years, and again based our budget estimates on those past expenditures. So as you know, the purchase orders are really just a tool for which we pay our bills and keep the operations of the district running. So it's our best estimate at the beginning of the year, so that we don't have to come back to the board month after month to seek subsequent approvals, which would slow down the paying of our vendors on a timely basis.
This is in no effect that if we spend less than that we don't use all of that as well either. It's just best practices to ensure that you budget that money, set it aside so that it doesn't get spent in other ways, or the district doesn't think that there's money to spend. And so our hope is obviously not to spend that amount, but it's just to put that money encumbered it aside for legal expenses. And that estimate was based on past years of Generally, that's about approximately we've spent year after year for the last, what was it, 10 years? 7 years.
Mr. Connor Radcliffe.
I'd like to me, this is a misplaced focus on the amount that we're allocating for potential legal services fees that we may have to use throughout the year. I think it's better placed, rather than focusing on the legal fees, let's focus on the things that underlie those legal fees. Let's see what we can do, if there's some policy we can address to change some of the problems that continue to arise that necessitate the use of legal advice and litigation. Those are the things that I think this board should be focused on, rather than saying, we shouldn't have lawyers. Well, we have to have lawyers until we take care of the underlying issues. So if we could focus as a board more on those underlying issues, I think our time is better spent there.
Mr. Sellers.
I agree completely. I think that's exactly what we ought to be doing. The fact that we're basing these on estimates that have gone on for 6-7 years indicates that there is room for growth, shall we say, in the providing of our services and our compliance with the law, so we don't have to spend so much on outside counsel. So no, I think you're right. I think we should treat the disease, not the symptom.
Dr. Patel.
Motion to approve.
Is a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. Other comments or discussion?
Yes, I'd like to add to the
Sorry,
conversation with regard to this, and to point out also number 53 is an additional expenditure of $300,000 to Atkinson. So that's a total of $650. And to Board Member O'Connor Radcliffe's point about getting to the underlying issues, this goes to the essence and the heart of the board's job, and that is one of oversight. If we are expected to write a $650,000 blank check, how can we provide that oversight? If we follow up, as I did, and asked to see those legal billings, what I got in return was 350 pages of almost entirely redacted legal invoices, and was told I'm not allowed to see the legal bills that this district pays with taxpayer money. So there is a disconnect here. If we are truly serious about doing our job and looking at the underlying issues, then we need to address this problem where board members are being denied access to those legal bills. How can we see how the bills are being spent?
Dr. Phelps.
So I just want to make a correction. Number 53, the additional, item 53, the additional $300,000 is specific to special education. In addition to, you were provided unredacted legal bills for any bills that were not pending current live active litigation. The law protects the lawsuits that are pending currently against the district to not provide that when there's a lawsuit that is live in protection of the district, because the legal bills divulge the legal direction in which our legal team is taking a case. And so the law allows the district to redact those. So you have been provided and are always welcome to any legal bills, and you've received all of those of anything, but your recent request was of only active lawsuits, which our attorneys had advised us, because it is an active lawsuit, that the law asks that we redact those invoices.
Actually, just a point of clarification of that. My request was to see all the legal bills since July 1st of 2017 from Attorney Mark Bressi, from his work for Poway Unified, as well as the work from Artiano Shinoff, that law firm. It wasn't specific to current cases, which even if they were, this board is required to approve those legal bills. So how do we approve something we can't see?
Again, all of the redacted invoices that you received were all active lawsuits, and unfortunately, both of those law firms are involved in those current lawsuits. So, the work that you requested during that time frame, those lawsuits are still pending and ongoing.
Mr. Little, perhaps you can just speak to the mechanics of it. Is this akin to writing a $650,000 blank check?
No, the approval, so to Trustee Beatty's point, the approval for the services is through the contract, the CSR report, which was approved either in the June meeting or the August meeting. So again, the purchase order is simply the mechanism to pay for the services that the board approved through the contract. And those purchase orders are paid against invoices. So the protection is the vendor is invoicing us. Our staff of professionals are checking the invoices to make sure that we're getting the services that we thought we were getting, that they're appropriate, that they're in line with the contract that was approved by the board. And once management signs off on those invoices, then our finance team pays them.
Mr. Little, just to clarify, then staff is allowed to see these legal bills that the board is not allowed to see. Is that correct?
Yes, staff approving, the management staff approving the services certainly see the work that's being done.
But again, you have legal access to that, and during the live and active lawsuits, we just can't allow those documents to leave the premise. So if you want to see those, just need to make an appointment with me, and I'm happy to show you any and all the invoices that you would like.
Okay, all right. Last comments?
Yeah, the problem is that if we're allowed to see them, why are they being redacted?
Because they're leaving the building and they're being sent to you electronically, or you've asked to take them. So when we give them to you, they have to be redacted because they're not subject to public knowledge.
No, there are some that we were offered to see that we could only see if they were redacted,
if they're handed off. So if you would like to set up an appointment, I'm happy to sit with you in our office. And any lawsuits that are pending and ongoing, you are welcome to look at those documents. They're just not able to leave the building.
So that even includes the Zane O'Connor lawsuit?
That's dependent on the board to vote on, and that's subject to closed session.
Oh, I see. So
that particular...
If the board decides that individual board members can look at these particular invoices unredacted, then it's okay, but...
It's the board's discretion to release that. The law provides a provision that the board has the ability to make approval for that exception of live and active lawsuits, but it is not the recommendation by our legal counsel to do that. They state it is not in the best interest for the district to do that.
Okay, so just to be clear, the particular invoices that Ms. Beatty and I have asked to see that are only being shown to us in redacted form are being done so because the other three members of the board won't permit us to see them. Is that correct?
I can't speak to that.
You were in the room when it happened.
It's in closed session. It would be a violation of Brown Act.
You guys can do basic math. Figure it out.
All right, thank you. There's been a motion and a second.
I had one more point. Did you want to?
Mr. Schwartz.
I just wanted to say that I'm not sure this exactly is affecting the public at the moment. So maybe we can just keep this to, I believe this was a closed session thing, and if I don't know about it, then I don't think it should be made public. That's all.
Mr. Schwartz, thank you. All right, I'd like to, Ms. Beatty, one last comment, and then I'm going to call the question.
So with regard to the allocations that Mr. Sellers spoke of, Board Policy 9124 states under contacting legal counsel that the superintendent may confer with district legal counsel subject to limits or parameters established by the board. To my knowledge, the board hasn't established those limits or parameters, and so I think in that sense, the board has been derelict in its duties. So with regard to these allocations, and that would encompass the superintendent's staff as well, With regard to these allocations, the $30,000 to learning, $25,000 to the business department, $270,000 to personnel, $25,000 to the superintendent's office, it's incumbent upon the board to provide the parameters and limits within which the superintendent and staff may confer with district legal counsel. And as I stated, this work has not been done, and so this work should preface approving these purchase orders.
Mr. Little.
Thank you. Short of providing a monetary constraint within the board policy, I would suggest that it's the board's opportunity at the time when we're discussing the contracts to approve the amounts that staff is recommending with respect to those contracts. So the $300,000 for the special ed contract was approved again, I believe, in June, and $350,000 was approved by the board either in June or August. So that's the time to set those parameters with respect to the magnitude of those services.
Just point of clarification on those contracts. Those contracts are not to exceed, and as staff mentioned, it's a maximum amount, not a floor. So by approving those amounts, the board is not weighing in on the parameters under which legal counsel can be consulted, and that's the work that needs to be done. The board providing the parameters. So the fact that we have existing contracts, that just allows for legal services, but the board still has to set the limits and parameters within which staff is allowed to confer with legal counsel.
Okay, all right. I'm going to take it as and acknowledge that is work yet to be done, and we can take a look at that. There's been a motion and a second on the item. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 6.1. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Zane. Item 6.1 is a recommendation to the board to consider an approval of resolution number 162019, resolution regarding the elimination and reduction in hours of the classified positions as contained in Exhibit A. There are 13 positions which are instructional assistants in special education, primarily 3-hour positions. With this elimination, it was a result of a position control review. These positions are vacant. There is no impact on any incumbent or employee. The recommendation was to eliminate these 3-hour positions and then utilize that savings to fund 7 6-hour positions that better serve the program needs for our students and for our schools. The board is asked to approve the resolution to eliminate these positions.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Connor-Ratcliffe. Is there a second? Second by Dr. Patel. Discussion? Questions? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Unanimous. This is item 6.2. Mr. Jimenez.
Thank you, President Zane. This is an information item with the open enrollment window approaching very soon for our employees and the opportunity to enroll for the health and welfare benefits for the upcoming plan year. Our Benefits Insurance Committee made the recommendation to maintain our current carriers under Aetna, Kaiser, Dental, and Vision for the 2019 plan year. The committee requested through our broker, Keenan, a request for proposals, and they were solicited and reviewed in June. The committee then requested best and final rate proposals from these carriers, Aetna, Anthem, and Viva. Through that analysis, the committee recommended to maintain our current carriers, and they considered multiple factors, including costs, program design such as copay, and potential disruption to employees' coverages. Aetna's renewals, best and final rates, approximately increased by 4.8%, and Kaiser as well by 4.7%, with slight increases for dental and vision. And it's important to note the overall increase of premiums could potentially be as low as 2.47% based on assumptions from our broker that potentially 1/3 of our employees may now select a new lower cost dental HMO plan which provides a cost savings. However, once those benefit selections are made by our employees, we will do the analysis, and the potential increase in rates could vary between 2.47% up to 4.8%. The insurance committee will continue to work with our broker in the upcoming winter months to further research program designs and survey our employees as we consider recommendations for the following plan year.
Thank you, Mr. Jimenez. Any questions? Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 7.1, certification of the 2017-2018 unaudited actual year-end closing financial report. Associate Superintendent Little. And
Yes.
Also a public hearing, so after you introduce the item, we'll open a public hearing. Or actually, I'm sorry, that's the next item. My apologies.
Thank you, President Zane. Good evening. This evening we present the 2017-18 unaudited actuals for the board's consideration and approval. We will review the combined general fund, unrestricted and restricted resources in some detail, and then we'll provide a high-level summary of the district's other funds at year-end closed for last year. If you're really interested, the granular level detail can be found in the full SACS report, which we will provide to the San Diego County Office of Education upon board approval. For our analysis this evening, we will compare the estimated actuals based on the budget we built for 2017-18 and subsequent board-approved revisions to our year-end close numbers, and a shout out to the finance team and all the work they did, our unaudited actuals, which, as you know, will be audited and confirmed over the next 60 days or so. So focusing first on revenues, as you can see, we estimated our district general fund revenues at about $365.8 million, and we received $364 million for 2017-18, a difference of $1.8 million. You can see that our estimates with respect to the LCFF funding were pretty right on. Our federal revenues simply represent deferred revenues, so these are simply revenues that we didn't use that we will carry over into next year. Similarly, our other state revenues, the largest component of that is our CTE incentive grant, not all of which we've spent, so that will be carried over into next year. And then we have some increased donations under local revenues of $1.8 million. So the delta of $1.8 million is made up of those component parts. Moving forward to expenditures, you'll note a rather large variance, $12.7 million, related primarily to unspent carryover. These are balances that remain in play for certain uses in the current year, as we'll see later. You'll note that we projected about $383 million of expenditures, and we finished the year with about $370.3 million of expenditures, a savings of about $12.7 million. Just looking at the larger line items, books and supplies, a variance of $7.2 million. Most of that will be unspent carryover that we'll put back into this year's budget, as you'll see on the next agenda item. The $4.9 million of services and other operating expenses. A large part of that is the unused Prop 39 dollars that will carry over into this year, as well as the mental health grant money that we'll talk about a little bit later. So about half of that 4.9 is also carryover, and the capital outlay, the $1,070,000, also represents carryover into the new year. Turning our attention to net activity, you'll recall that net activity is simply our revenues less our expenditures. We had projected a net activity, actually we projected that our outflows would outpace our inflows by $14.6 million. And as we close the books, we're noting that our expenditures exceed our revenues by a little over $5 million. So again, a positive variance with respect to expenditures of, call it, $9.6 million. Here's the makeup of that $9.6 million briefly. Revenue adjustments of about $1 million. Expenditures that were budgeted but not expended are about $3.9 million. As you noted probably on the green sheet, we have about $6.5 million increase in carryover, which represents the unrestricted $4.6 million and the restricted $1.9 million. So that's the 6.5. And then we have some increased contributions of about $1.9 million. So that accounts for the difference between where we thought we were going to end the year and where we actually ended the year. So how does our general fund ending balance look then as we close the books for 2017-18? You'll note we began the year at about $65.6 million. Our net activity is $5 million negative, so we will end the year at $60,516,741 with a reserve level of 15.3%. A solid financial position with solid reserve levels. Our ending balance of $60.5 million is comprised of the following components. I won't read all of those, but you'll note that there's about $42.4 million of reserves for economic stabilization. That's the 34.9 and the 7.4 that you'll note on the first and third row. And then we have a total of about $13.2 million of carryover, 8.6 in the unrestricted line, and another 4.6 in the restricted line that we're going to talk about here shortly. So focusing first on the unrestricted carryover, here's what that is comprised of. Again, I won't read all of the line items, but again, we have a large component of donations that are at the site level, and quite a bit of committed purchase orders for work that began last fiscal year that has to be completed in the current year. I'd be happy to answer any questions about any of these at the end. Moving forward to the restricted carryover of $4.6 million, we have about $2.8 million sitting in restricted lottery funds. That's for instructional supplies and equipment as well as textbooks. We mentioned the Prop 39 clean energy funds. Director Coster and his team continue to work at spending that on facility projects. The mental health carryover of $793,000. That was an intentional carryover, anticipating increased NPS expenditures in 18-19. The special ed team and the finance team set aside some dollars to sort of soften the impact of those increases. And then a little bit on the college readiness block grant. That was it for the general fund. Looking at the district's other funds at year-end close, you'll note that for all but two, the net activity is positive, again adding to the respective fund balances. So a very positive year for our other funds. Again, the detail is in the SACS reports for each of those funds. We'd be happy to answer any questions that you have with respect to any of those funds. As we've done sort of consistently over the past year, we have to draw out Fund 63 just because it has a separate accounting treatment. Remember that Fund 63 is our only enterprise fund, which means it's sort of treated like a business. And under GASB 68, it has some distinct accounting methodologies that have to be applied, and without getting into the weeds, we're required to account for the liability associated with our pension programs. Not only our own liability, but the liability that we share statewide with STRS and PERS. So if we were not to follow our GASB requirement, you can see the second line there. The program, this is our ESS program, a very positive and successful program. They would end the year with a reserve balance of $2.9 million to the good. So it's a positive $2.9 million that, in fact, they have. Once we add in the liability that we have to account for, you can see that it goes to a negative $10 million purely on an accounting basis. Again, their true ending balance is $2.9 million if we were using the fund accounting approach that we use in all the other funds. Our last two slides is just a historical sort of review of where we've been as a district. I call this the roller coaster slide. It's part California state funding for schools, and part implications of carryover. So typically, some years where we do well, it's because we get a lot of state funding and we don't spend it all. But typically, the year after or the year after that, we carry those funds forward and we spend them, and they become the red bars, the deficits that you see below the zero line. Obviously, the good news for us is we have many more green bars that are higher than the few red bars that we have. So the surplus is the operating surplus, revenues exceeding our expenditures, and the important piece, of course, are the ending fund balance, the purple lines, which is the reserves that are left in the general fund at the end of each year as we close the books. And related to that, of course, is the reserve level. So this is in dollars, the purple line, so you can see that as we projected, we're finishing 17-18 at about $60 million in reserves. That equates, as we mentioned, to about 15.3%. We compare the reserve levels to total expenditures of the general fund. So we take that $60 million, we add in any reserves in Fund 17 because that's an unrestricted fund, and then divide by the total expenditures across the general fund. So again, this is just a history of our general fund reserve levels, again, all positive. You can see the year before the recession hit, we were low at about 7.4%. We had a high of 21.8%, and again, we're right in the middle of those two extremes with year-end close. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Oh, I'm sorry, we're obviously seeking approval of the board for certification and submittal of the unaudited actuals report.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Board members, Ms. Beatty.
I have a couple of comments. First of all, thank you, Mr. Little, for the presentation, and I do hope we are making the SACS report available to the public, because despite it being a 317-page document, I know, without naming names, there are at least 2 community members in the audience who would happily look through that. And I wish that I had had more time to review it than I did. It is obviously a cumbersome document, but there were a couple of what I found interesting, apart from your presentation, was the comparison from last year, 17-18 to 18-19, with certain expenditures, especially when we're mindful of the ongoing deficits and some of our ongoing expenses that keep increasing, the pension liabilities, healthcare costs. So there were some I just wanted to briefly mention that stood out to me with regard to, as I said, increases from last year to this year. So our management costs increased $1.3 million this year. STRS and PERS increased $9.2 million. Health and welfare benefits increased $4.6 million, for a total of approximately $16 million in employee benefits. Salaries increased just under $6 million. Textbooks and core curriculum materials decreased $3.2 million. Materials and supplies increased $2.3 million. Rentals, leases, repairs, and non-capitalized improvements had a plus 50% increase. Professional consulting services increased $2.2 million, and communications increased 50%. So I just wanted to get that in the record as the board thinks about how we want to make cuts in the future to eliminate our structural deficit. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beatty. Mr. Schwartz.
Just looking at it from a student's perspective, one thing that caught my eye was that, and Ms. Beatty, if you can clarify on that, you said a 3.2% $3.2 million decrease in textbook funding from, I was confused on that. Can you clarify? Because something that's been brought to my attention is our outdated textbooks, and just wondering what the adoption and the funding of that was, because it was $2 million, and then I saw $1 million number, and I'm obviously not a accountant, so I don't really know too much about how the budgeting works, but if you could clarify what you were saying on that.
The line item, and I can't speak to it more than the line item because that's what was in the document, the SACS document, was textbooks and core curriculum materials. And the expenditure as this year in 18-19 as compared to last year was $3.2 million less. And I don't know, staff may be able to speak to that more specifically.
Sure, thank you. Thank you for the question. If I recall correctly, we did begin some textbook adoptions last year and then stalled as we got closer to the end of the year. We certainly have a plan to continue with our textbook adoptions. This slide shows you that we have $1 million of carryover, to your question, from last year, which will be added into this year's budget. So that's one. And then we have another $2 million already budgeted in this year's budget for a total of $3 million available for textbook adoptions in the current year. So that should, once we add that $3 million to expenditures, that should get us pretty close to last year's expenditures. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Others? All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Sellers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe. Further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a student preferential vote?
Yes.
Aye. Okay. Unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
That now takes us to item 5.3J. Mr. Little.
Yes, thank you, President Zane. This evening, we're requesting approval of our monthly budget revisions. We bring these budget revisions to the board each month as the budget changes. As you know, it's a very dynamic process. I'll just go briefly through the changes and be happy to answer any questions. So on page 1 of 8, this is simply the revised budget that the board approved in August. Remember, we had to make changes based on the state budget that was adopted in late June. This shows on page 1 that our budget was projecting expenditures outpacing revenues by $1.4 million. The meat of the report, of course, is on page 2. Right, so these are the changes that we just talked about in a large part in the last presentation. The changes in the revenues are basically adding back in deferred revenues from our federal and state programs that we didn't spend last year. So you can see that we're increasing our revenues on the restricted side by about $3.5 million. On the expenditures, if we just look at the unrestricted side first, we're adding in an additional PPAP coordinator to support our new teachers. We're adding in about 15.3 FTE of instructional aides to help support our RSP teachers in the classroom. And then if you look under the 4,000 supplies line item, you'll see the $8.6 million of carryover I just referenced added in as expenditures now, and the $4.6 million of restricted carryover that we just discussed added in as expenditures now. So these are leftover monies from last year that we're putting into the expenditure budget for this year. So of course they're going to increase the expenditure budget for this year. But again, it's all money we didn't spend last year. So and then of course we added in the expenditures associated with the deferred revenues on the federal and state grants. So the long and short of it is we've added in $13.2 million of carryover to the current year's budget, as well as the deferred revenues for federal and state grants, and that will take our projections from 1.4 negative to again negative $14.9 million. So again, 13.2 of carryover becomes expenditures for the current year, meaning our expenditures will exceed the revenues by $14.9 million. That's the change in the current budget on page 3. You see it there. Pages 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 have not changed. So those are simply the same multi-year projections that we provided to you when we adopted the budget, when you adopted the budget in August. So the same numbers in effect.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Is there a motion?
I think since you pulled it, you should initiate the motion. Did you have a question? Is that why you pulled it?
No, I just moved it for sequence purposes. But I'll make the motion to approve.
Second?
Thank you. There's been a motion and a second. Comments? Preferential votes?
Yes. Aye.
Okay. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. No opposed? No. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Back on track to hear item 7.2. This actually is a public hearing. After introduction of the item, we will open a public hearing.
Thank you. Yes, thank you, President Zane. This is our annual SFNA report. It's being presented tonight for the board to approve. It's for a continued levy of alternative school facility fees on new non-CFD residential construction. So these would be level 2 fees, which are in addition to any level 1 fees that we would levy on residential construction. So as you know, if you read the long list of whereases, there's a lot of criteria and requirements that we have to meet in order to be able to charge level 2 fees. That's why the fiscal implications are so minimal, $25,000. So it's a long way to go for a little bit of return, but here we are. So we seek approval this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Little. I anticipate a long line of speakers on this. Anyone? No? Going once, going twice? All right. The hearing was opened and closed within 60 seconds. It is now 7:41. Open 7:41, closed 7:41. And we'll take any motions from the board.
I'll move to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Beatty. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Further comments, discussion? All in preferential vote?
Yes.
Aye. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7.3, Mr. Little.
Yes, this is a follow-up from the item we presented at the August board meeting. We share with you the plans related to some work on some sewer lines that the city of Poway was undertaking with respect to, and how it sort of infringed on part of our parking lot at Painted Rock Elementary School. So this is just formalizing the request to grant an easement to the city to allow them to do the work there.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Little. This, again, is a public hearing. We will open the public hearing at 7:43. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak to this item? We'll close the public hearing at 7:43 and entertain motions from the board.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Sellers. Mr. Schwartz, you have a preferential vote? Aye. For comments, discussion? All in favor? Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. So item 8.1, ratification of stipulated agreements for student expulsion. Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight we bring forward to the board 2 stipulated agreements for board action.
Thank you very much. To begin, is there a motion on case number 2017-2018.39?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Patel. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Is there a motion for item 2017, case number 2017-2018.40?
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. O'Connor Ratcliffe. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Patel. Comments? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Ms. Osborne, item 8.2.
Thank you, President Zane. Tonight we bring forward 2 readmissions for board approval.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion for approval on case number 2017-2018.14? A motion by Mr. Sellers. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Patel. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion for case number 2017-2018.16? Motion to approve by Mr. Sellers, second by Mr. Connor Ratcliffe. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Lastly, Ms. Osborne, item 8.3, public hearing and approval of resolution number 10-2019 entitled Sufficiency of Instructional Materials for 2018-2019.
Thank you, President Zane. Each year we bring forward as a public hearing a resolution for sufficiency of instructional materials for the school year. Instructional materials include standards-aligned textbooks for our 4 core courses of mathematics, English, science, history, social science, and also includes foreign languages and health. It also includes teacher-developed materials such as units of study aligned to standards and open educational resources. We ensure that each student has access both at school and at home as needed to support their learning. As a reminder, our most recent adoptions last year were for K-5 language arts materials. Currently, we are working with middle and high school science teachers through the textbook adoption process, and we will also begin meeting with world language teachers to address their instructional material needs.
Thank you very much. This is also another public hearing. We'll open the public hearing at 7:46. Are there any members of the public wishing to speak to this item? Two juicy things. I'm surprised. No, nothing. We'll close the public hearing at 7:46 as well.
Juicy.
Is there a motion from the board?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Dr. Patel. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Connor Ratcliffe. Board members discussion. Ms. Beatty.
We may have a resident expert who may want to speak on the topic.
I would love to. I actually spoke with Ms. Osborne and Ms. Burks during our board brief, and I brought to her attention that a lot of our science textbooks were out of date. In fact, from 2001, where some scientific material was actually incorrect because science is always changing. But she assured me that the process was continuing, and that they were in the process of replacing the textbooks. But obviously, it's a very, very expensive process. You have to buy the right textbooks, because what's the point of getting a bad textbook and spending millions of dollars on that? So I totally understand why it's taking so long, but obviously, the faster, the better. But I trust in the process that is continuing right now.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Is that I'm sorry, Ms. Beatty, go ahead.
So just to further that, I had a couple of years ago, I used to say that my high school junior or senior had textbooks that were as old as he was. I don't know where they stand now, but I do know the board's heard on many occasions in the past from teachers, foreign language teachers in the district, as well as Mr. Mason, our resident education advocate, who's brought the materials so that we could see and feel these very old materials. So I don't know if you could address the foreign language textbook adoption or materials adoption.
So when I first came on board to Poway Unified, that was definitely a concern of mine. I met with several groups of teachers who expressed concern about the textbooks, and from what I understand is prior to all of our arrival up here is that the textbook adoptions were being placed on hold due to budget situation. But since then, we've allocated more monies towards the textbooks adoptions. We've since then, our LSS team has constructed a timeline as far as looking at all the different adoptions. Last year, as you know, we attributed about $7 million, I believe, towards the adoption of new English language arts textbooks for our elementary schools. The adoption of any grade level, because we are so large, is pretty extensive. I believe K through 2 adoption of just one content area was $3 million. So it does take time to save that money, but we have put money aside. As far as the foreign language textbook process, when I met with them, they requested a professional development opportunity. I believe that they've attended that, and we've been implementing that part of it. And then we have a committee meeting to look at the different materials that are out there, and then we're, I believe, moving forward with recommendations for looking at which foreign language materials that we're going to adopt soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Yes, Mr. Schwartz.
Just to plant a seed, I'm sure you've already considered this, but electronic textbooks are a great option. I do believe that we are at the point where almost all students, if not all students, have access to a computer or some kind of electronic device. I'm not sure what the price is in comparison of the two, but I can safely say that many students would be perfectly fine with an electronic textbook if that was a option for it to be a faster and cheaper option.
That's definitely something that we're looking at, as well as weighing in the cost, but we also have to ensure that all of our students also have access to technology devices, because that's not necessarily the case in Poway. So we have to solve that problem also.
Great. Okay, thank you. Just for clarification, I want to make sure, was Mr. Sellers either a maker of the motion or the second? He's out of the room. I want to call the vote on it. Okay. All right. There was a motion and a second, correct? All right. Yeah. Right. All in favor? Preferential vote?
Absolutely. Aye.
Great. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Mr. Sellers out of the room. Great. Well, we heard item 9.1 earlier, so that brings us to 11.1. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you, President Zane. In compliance with Government Code Section 87306.5, the Board of Trustees will review its conflict of interest policy, recommended changes from the Poway Unified School District Board Policy 1.11, conflict of interest, to the adoption of the California School Boards Association, CSBA's board bylaws, 9270, conflict of interest, as approved by the Board of Education on Thursday, August 9, 2018. Resolution number 11-2019 and appendix have been brought tonight for the board's review and consideration.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second. Conversation? Questions? All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. That brings us to board member reports, and we'll start with Mr. Schwartz.
I first just want to start off by saying thank you to all the Wolverines I see out in the audience. Thank you. That's very sweet of you. Well, thank you for attending our monthly board meeting. Your attendance and voice are crucial to the success of our district, especially any students who came today. Thank you. I've been working very hard this past month to ensure my short term as your representative leaves a mark in the Poway Unified School District. From the very beginning, I've said that I have only one goal during my tenure: to make positive, tangible change. This kind of change only comes through proactivity and hard work. To this end, I began the month by getting a tour of Design 39 campus. Thank you to Mr. Erpelding for your fantastic overview, Mr. Clerk for your arranging our meeting. I learned so many amazing things about the school. The staff of this school is a collection of passionate professionals who have compelling ideas for the future of education, both of their school and beyond. Still, I've heard rumors that Design 39 is not a real school and Design 39 is falling behind standards. I challenge those who doubt the potential of this school to think about what a truly successful school is or can be, and then go to see Design 39 for themselves. I remain confident that they will be inspired, like I was, by what they see there. I originally visited the campus to investigate their low attendance issue. After a meeting, Design 39's extremely progressive principal sent an email out to the community saying the importance of student attendance and how to properly miss school. This gave my beliefs in our district staff an even greater boost. Considering the importance of student leadership, I also took the time to meet with the ASB presidents of each PowayUSD high school. We discussed the issues that are very different yet similar high schools shared. I'm happy to report that I'll be meeting with Dr. Phelps and Ms. Peck in the near future to actually implement our brainstormed ideas. I was also fortunate enough to have my interview with Pomerado News published in various prints. This article can be found on my Facebook, the PUSD newsletter, or simply online by searching my name. I had the opportunity to share my goals for the rest of the year as well as give a short insight into my personal life. Finally, I had a very nostalgic visit to my former elementary school, Willow Grove. I got to tour the campus, visit classrooms, and encourage students to openly share their voice through me. This was especially great because the opinions of elementary school students are often overlooked. Just like us, they have wants and goals. My job as student board member is to represent all students, and by meeting with the K through 5th graders, I'm a little bit closer to properly representing all 30,000 plus students. Overall, I'm happy with the amount of work I have been able to accomplish in this short month. I will grow to love this opportunity of student board member more and more every single day. Thank you for all the support, and as always, contact me through any time through my email. I have notifications on, so I will answer very fast. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Schwartz. Ms. O'Connor-Ratcliffe.
It's been a busy first 3 weeks of school and 4 weeks plus for many of our employees. I attended the AFSM Welcome Back breakfast, and there were lots of new faces there, building excitement for our students' arrival at that point, and that's where I first saw our back-to-school music video, This Is Me. If you have not seen it, you've got to check out Poway Unified's website, PowayUSD. It's right there on the front cover. You can't miss it. It really is amazing in how it celebrates our unique and talented and diverse students, and it really does focus on our students. Beautiful song, too. I have a new middle schooler, 6th grader, so I was pleased to volunteer on day one of Mesa Verde Middle School's registration, see all the craziness, and then I took her back on day 2, so I already knew what to do. It was a good sleuthing opportunity, and it was good to meet some new parents that my kid will be in school with now. The day before school started, I took my Girl Scout troop to make a special delivery to our Youth in Transition program. In pursuit of their Bronze Award, which they're about to get, the girls had collected a whole bunch of supplies, toiletries, gift cards that they bought with cookie money and grant money and donations from the community for families in our district who need a little extra assistance in getting ready for the start of the school year. I'm really proud of these girls who are at Black Mountain Middle School and Mesa Verde Middle School. And I wanted to give a shout out to April Agaran and Michelle Cass, who was here as one of our classified employees of the year, for answering the girls' questions about the program, about the Youth in Transition program, and really helping them make a connection that I hope is going to encourage them to want to do community service in the future as well. On the first day of school, I loved touring our new Mandarin immersion class at Adobe Bluffs with Superintendent Phelps and Principal Park there. The kids were already singing very familiar tunes in a new language on day one with their peers sitting next to them. It was really amazing what these little kindergartners can do with very little prompting. We have some new faces up on the dais, and I had a chance to meet with Mr. Mizell to grill him. Just ask him a few questions in a friendly atmosphere about his vision for student services this year. We talked for a particularly long time about special education. That is my personal passion, but I left feeling like we have a fantastic leader at the helm there, and great things are coming, so I'm excited. Thank you. Along with Dr. Patel and Mr. Zane, and maybe I'll just let them talk about this more, but I attended the groundbreaking ceremony of Sienna's Play Garden next to Rolling Hills Elementary School. This has been a huge community effort for years, and now it's finally going to happen. So it was a big moment for our mayor, but for more importantly, I loved seeing Principal Keller and the students and the teachers and instructional aides come on out. This is their park. It's next to their school. This is their neighborhood. They were so excited. They loved seeing all of the hoopla and the ceremonial shovels, and I was really glad to see that Principal Keller and all those teachers found this worthwhile to bring the kids out and be part of the whole thing. Parts of that park haven't been renovated since I was a kid playing there. After soccer practice, when the Perfect Puppies finished their soccer practice, I would go play on that big cheese there that still has chipped paint and it looks terrible. So it's very exciting change for that part. Back to school nights happened. Adobe Bluffs and Mesa Verde Middle School for me. They were wonderful, and those always give me and other parents a preview of the year to come. I know it's really hard work for our teachers to get prepared for that. But as a parent, it is so great to make that connection so I can feel part of my child's learning for the year and know what's coming. So thank you to all the teachers who were part of that and put in all that extra effort to get ready for that. The Special Education Advisory Committee met again for the first time this school year, and I'm so enthusiastic about the model school concept that we talked about at our last meeting. Can't wait until this gets really rolling. It's very exciting to me right now. Poway Days Parade happened. I'm going to let somebody else talk about that, but what a Poway Unified Showcase. It was amazing and exciting to sit on the fire truck with Dr. Patel and our classified employees of the year and teachers of the year. And we were blowing bubbles. This is one of the teachers' ideas. The bubble guns are a new tradition. That was a fun one. I was at Design 39 campus on Tuesday to share a little bit of our PUSD vision with a rep from the U.S. Department of Education, and I want to shout out to the LED/teacher, Megan Powers, for the invitation there. I can't wait to celebrate Saturday. I'll be there at Clock Salute to Teachers. They have a red carpet event every year. It's very exciting. Hope to see some of you there, and that'll do it for me. Thanks.
Ms. Beatty.
Right. First, I wanted to thank Del Norte High School for the lovely staff T-shirt that they gave to me. Thank you. And also congratulate all of our middle schools for not only fielding intramural cross-country teams as we get underway with all of our fall sports, and Mount Carmel hosts its invitational this weekend in Balboa Park, but also all of them hosting events, cross-country meets, with the exception of D39C. And I believe all of the middle schools are, it's the ACES programs are supporting these, the athletics, the cross-country athletics, all except for one, because of a dedicated volunteer, parent volunteer at Black Mountain Middle School who happens to be related to me. The intramurals has been something that's been in middle school, has been really important to our principals since it was lost probably about 15 years ago. And so this is a great step forward to bring back sports for our middle school students. And in that vein, and actually we may have, without putting them on the spot, we may have a community member who can answer. Many of our middle schools usually participate in the Jacko Smash event. It looks like it's not taking place this year, which is really unfortunate because Poway Unified has been a significant beneficiary of the program. Basically, in the past, we got 2/3 of the proceeds. They went to our special ed transitions in Abraxas, and as well as POVA, the community charitable organization. So that's unfortunate that that's not going to be happening this year. The rest of my report, I just have some housekeeping as far as I would like to request of Board President Zane a couple of items to place on the agenda for the October meeting. Under our new board policy, I as a board member am required to submit it in writing 10 days in advance, but I thought I would go ahead in advance of submitting it in writing, just make the two requests. We believe it was in our packet for this month. We had a board bylaws 9323 was given to us. I thought it was in this packet, and I thought there were some corrections in there. This is about the board agenda format, and I went through it, and there's a lot of cleanup work that I'd like for the board to initiate. There are a lot of redundancies. And
just to you said I'm just from
9323.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd like to request that go
board
on
policy. Is that board policy?
Board, yeah.
Okay.
It's BB. It's board bylaws now.
Thank you.
And the second request is, one moment. under Board Bylaws 9124A, the board and superintendent are required to annually evaluate the performance of legal firms or attorneys providing legal services with regard to areas such as efficiency, adequacy of advice, results obtained for the district, reasonableness of fees, and responsiveness to and interactions with the board, administration, and community. And so I would like to docket that as well for the October meeting. And lastly, I just wanted to finish with an excerpt from the Brown Act. There's been much discussion about how and when board members ask questions, specifically with requests to doing it, submitting questions to staff prior to the board meetings. And so I've in the past brought up this issue of the tension between the public's right to see their business and staff not being caught off guard, being prepared for answers. So with that in mind, I did want to read this excerpt from the Brown Act. Where matters are not subject to a closed meeting exception, the Brown Act has been interpreted to mean that all of the deliberative processes by legislative bodies, including discussion, debate, and the acquisition of information, be open and available for public scrutiny. Problems arise when systematic communications begin to occur which involve members of the board acquiring substantive information for an upcoming meeting with staff. Executive officers may wish to brief their board members on policy decisions and background events concerning proposed agenda items. The Attorney General's office believes that a court could determine that such communications violate the Brown Act because such discussions are part of the deliberative process. If these communications are permitted to occur in private, a large part of the process by which board members reach their decisions may have occurred outside the public eye. Under these circumstances, the public would be able only to witness a shorthand version of the deliberative process, and its ability to monitor and contribute to the decision-making process would be curtailed. Therefore, the Attorney General recommends that when the Executive Director is faced with a situation, he or she prepare a memorandum outlining the issues for all of the members of the board as well as the public. In this way, meetings violations may be avoided and everyone will have the benefit of reacting to the same information. So the board may have an interest in further discussion with regard to this topic as well, and I'll leave that up to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sellers.
I too want to thank the kind folks at Del Norte High School for the t-shirt. I truly believe it is always a great day to be a Night Hawk. Indeed. The only comment I'll make is I want to thank, if I can get to the right page here. I want to thank all our of the years for their hard work and dedication to the district. In addition to the schools that were recognized as California Distinguished Schools, I did notice that while we have 3 Teachers of the Year and 3 Volunteers of the Year, we have only 2 Classified Employees of the Year. And I think that should change. I think we should have 3 Classified Employees of the Year so they're all the same. So I want to congratulate all those who were honored here tonight. And I want to give a special shout out to one of the Volunteers of the Year, the couple actually, Andrea and Roger Mitchell, from my wife's school, Canyon View, who, among many other things, put a beautiful mural in her library. And it is really quite amazing. She drew a whale freehand and other things that I would never even attempt to do. So I want to express my personal appreciation as well as that of my wife's, and thank them for the work that they've done to beautify one of our schools. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sellers. Dr. Patel.
Don't worry, TJ. Michelle took a lot of my stuff. Good evening, everybody. The month of August certainly is one of ramping up for the school year. I, as Board Member O'Connor Ratcliffe, attended the APSOM Welcome Back breakfast and did have to sit through a rather interesting rendition of a famous Eagles song, and I'll just leave it at that. You almost had to be there. I did tweet it out, though, so you can always find it. I attended registration day at Mesa Verde and several back-to-school nights. It was great to see and feel all of the positive energy that's out there for the beginning of the school year, and I'm excited for this year to come. I started this year with a renewed commitment to visit all the school sites. I have many still pending, and I'm happy to report that I did manage to schedule 2 official site visits since our last meeting. I met with Principal Christine Donnelly at Creekside Elementary School and discussed the implementation of the new homework policy. Still waiting to see the administrative guidelines on that. There's lots of questions from the public. Developing positive school culture, universal reading assessments, which I observed taking place for first graders, after school clubs, and toured the campus. I really appreciate all the staff and volunteers at Creekside Elementary School for creating such a welcoming, inclusive environment for our children to learn and grow. At Turtleback Elementary School, I met with Principal Ann Otten, and we walked around the whole campus and visited many classrooms. But primarily, we had very long and extensive discussions focused on the Voyager program, which she's very excited about, the use of Seesaw and DonorsChoose.org by teachers, again, first grade reading assessments, which I sat in on and observed, the use of collaboration space, the benefits of having an on-campus 50% TOSA, in her case, it's Matt Sterling, and special education at her school. We really did cover so many topics. It was very informative for me. And I can't wait for the next warm welcome from Turtleback Elementary School. We had a great Team PUSD turnout at the Poway Days Parade from Poway Unified School District community, including bands, drill team cheer, junior ROTC, robotics, the transportation department, California Distinguished Schools, and I'm sure many others, but since I was sitting on the fire truck, I couldn't get to see everybody. I was joined on the fire truck by Board Member Michelle O'Connor Ratcliffe, Teachers of the Year Anna Collins and Chantel Raquel, as well as her son, Classified Employee of the Year Shelley Porter, and many, many bubble machines. We're brainstorming on how we can get the truck itself to generate bubbles. That would be pretty cool. Thanks to the wonderful drivers for a very safe ride and making sure everyone was safe and secure on that fire truck. I also had the opportunity to participate in a special tour arranged by the Design 39 Collaborative LED Megan Powers for the U.S. Department of Education as part of an annual fall tradition to visit selected schools throughout the nation. The visiting representative was Mr. Jason Botel, who is, very long title, Principal Deputy Assistant Secretary for the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education and the Acting Assistant Deputy Secretary for the Office of Innovation and Improvement. I think he really enjoyed his visit to Design 39. I think it fits perfectly in his wheelhouse. He learned a lot about design thinking model used at Design 39, and frankly, so did I, and how innovation and learning does not necessarily mean more technology, but certainly requires a mind shift in education. He also toured the classrooms, collaboration spaces, and learned how to effectively implement maker spaces. It's not just about creating a maker space, it's about making sure it's used in the right way. And had an open conversation with parents. For me, particularly, it was this conversation with parents was the most valuable part of the tour. As I go around the district and meet parents and staff, I've been hearing a lot about things like the early reading screening, implementation of new homework policy, and even discussions around why we can't have filtered water bottle filling stations. I'm following the development of these administrative guidelines surrounding these concerns in the community, as well as their implementation, and look forward to sharing all of these updates as we go forward. And now for a little bit of news. I want to express my regret in not being able to attend more and more evening events throughout the community. For example, like the Safety Forum earlier this week. I have some family circumstances that I hope are temporary and positive that's made my family evening time all the more precious. So you might not see me around in the evening, but I'll definitely be there during the day. To close my report, I'm looking forward to celebrating with our Teachers of the Year for the 28th anniversary Salute to Teachers downtown on Saturday, where the County Teacher of the Year will be announced. Thank you for listening. Good evening.
Thank you, Dr. Patel. a few items, again, in my traditional format. Since the last board meeting, the day after the board meeting, I was fortunate to be here at the district office that morning to watch staff get trained on their options-based training in furtherance of what we're doing in the areas of school safety and improving school and campus safety. Just a couple, or actually, let me see, in order here, a few weeks back, I had a little gap. I had that 8-10, that was on August 10th, then I went away for a long and exhausting Boy Scout trip in the Eastern Sierras. And when I got back, shortly after I got back, was able to attend the Sierra's Play Garden. Sienna's, excuse me, I got Sierra, something separate on my mind here. Sienna's Play Garden groundbreaking in the Rolling Hills area. And significantly, on September 2nd, I spent a great deal of my day reading over and over again the article about Jake Schwartz that appeared in the newspaper. Just riveting reading. It was great. I encourage you to pick up that article. Jake is a rock star. On September 4th, attended the Palomar Council PTA meeting and had another opportunity to provide an update to the members there as to what the district is working on, again, in the area of school safety, and got to listen to a presentation there by Sandy Hook Promise, and more about Sandy Hook Promise in a second. On the September 11th, just a couple days ago, attended the Community Safety Forum here, and was pleased and grateful to participate on the panel discussion there, and the meeting of the District-Wide Safety Committee, kind of an inaugural meeting, if you will. A lot of great work came out of that. Very pleased by the turnout, and again, want to thank all the staff involved in helping to make that a reality and putting that on. Also, just want to point out, just ahead of our next board meeting, the week of September 24th through September 27th is it starts with Hello week at Del Norte High School. And it culminates with a kickoff on the 27th, hosted by the Sandy Hook Promise. It's only the one of 3 high schools in the nation that'll be hosting the national kickoff for It Starts With Hello week across the country. So really looking forward to that event. I think it's going to be fantastic. Saturday, look forward to Saturday evening and honoring our Teachers of the Year, and hoping that some of them make County Teacher of the Year. And lastly, I'll just say in closing, I was much more grateful than my wife that I have another T-shirt for my collection from Del Norte High School, so I appreciate that. And that concludes my report. Dr. Phelps.
Thank you. So what a wonderful opportunity tonight to officially recognize our California Distinguished Schools, our Teachers of the Year, our Classified Employees of the Year, and our Volunteers of the Year. Congratulations once again, and thank you for your passion, your dedication in serving our schools and our children. I just want to commend our entire team PUSD for such a smooth start of the school year and the opening of our schools. I had the opportunity to visit several campuses on the first day of school and was very impressed at how hard our staff, teachers, principals, and parent volunteers all worked hard to prepare for a successful opening of the school year. I want to congratulate each and every one of you on a job well done. I too look forward to attending the Salute to Teachers event on Saturday evening at Balboa Theater with 13 other people, 4 other board members, and in hopes that one of our teachers will move on, as they have in all the past years, as the County Teacher of the Year. In addition to that, September is our Attendance Awareness Month. We want to make sure that our students stay on the right track all year long by coming to school each and every day. Good attendance is essential to student achievement and well-being. Attendance is also directly tied to the funding we receive from the state, and based on our average daily attendance, or our ADA, we're asking that our parents and our partner with us in ensuring our students are coming to school healthy, well-rested, and ready to learn. Last week, the district hosted the first meeting of our PUSD Safety Planning Committee. We had a wonderful turnout of parents, students, staff, law enforcement. We all came together, and moving forward, they will be working on committees guided by the result of the district-wide facilities assessment, which will be presented at a future board meeting. I want to ask that you please take some time to read through any staff and student recognitions that is in the board packet, and that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Phelps. Seeing no other business on the agenda, the next regularly scheduled meeting of the board will be held on Thursday, October 11th, here at the district office at 6 p.m. It is now 8:20, and we are adjourned. Thank you.